Do you remember the last time you said yes when you really wanted to say no? Maybe it was a meeting. Someone asked for your opinion, and instead of speaking your truth, you nodded along. Or perhaps it was at home, agreeing to take on yet another responsibility when you were already drowning. You told yourself you were being nice, being helpful, being a good colleague, a good friend, and a good woman and mother. But here's what nobody tells you. Nice is killing you. I know because I've been there. I watched it happen to hundreds of women I work with. High-achieving, brilliant women who are exhausted, burned out, and wondering why success feels so heavy. And the answer is simple yet hard. But it's not easy to hear. You're not being nice, you are people-pleasing. And there is a massive difference. Today I'm going to show you exactly what the difference is and why it's costing you absolutely everything and how to stop it. Because if you don't, you'll never access the creativity, the power, and the success that's already within you. So let's dive into it. Let me ask you something. When did you learn to be nice? Was it when you're 5-year-old and your mother told you to share your toys? Was it when your teacher praised you for being quiet and well-behaved? Or maybe it was when you got your first job and realized that being agreeable got you further than speaking your truth. Nice is not something you were born with. It's something you were conditioned to become. And I want you to really hear this. Listen closely, because it changes absolutely everything. There is a difference between nice and kind. Kind is something you're born with. It's genuine. It comes from your heart. It comes from a place of authenticity. When you're kind, you help because you genuinely want to, not because you're seeking something in return. But nice, that's a different matter. Nice is a form of manipulation. I know that sounds harsh, but hear me out. You might be thinking, Annette, how can you even suggest such a thing? Nice is good. I'm just trying to be a good person. But stay with me, because every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you bite your tongue in boredom in a boardroom, every time you put someone else's needs before your own, when you're already depleted, you're not being kind. You're manipulating the situation to get something you need. And what is it that you need? Validation, to be seen, to be worthy. You're looking for the dopamine kick. That's the bottom line. That moment when someone says, thank you so much, you're amazing. And for a brief second, you feel valuable. And here's the problem. It doesn't last. The validation is external. It's fleeting. And your brain knows it. So what does it do? It sends you right back out there seeking more. Say yes again. Please someone else. Get another hit of that external approval. And slowly, without even realizing it, you're building your entire life on a foundation that isn't even yours. You're living according to everyone else's rules, everyone else's expectations, everyone else's definition of who you should be. Boring? Yes, it is. And in the process, you're lowering your self-worth with every single yes that should have been a no. This is how it looks in real life. You wake up exhausted, not just physically tired, but soul tired, deep into the roots. You look at your calendar and feel dread instead of excitement. Your meetings where you have brilliant ideas, but you don't share them, because what if they're not good enough? What if someone judges you? So you stay quiet and you watch someone else say something similar and get praised for it. You're working late again because you said yes to yet another project, even though you're already at full capacity. But you can't say no because what will they think of you? You go home and you have nothing left. Nothing for yourself, nothing for your family, nothing for your dreams, nothing for your creativity. which actually moves your life forward. And here's what's really happening. You're burning out, not because you're not capable, not because you're not strong enough, resilient enough, but because people pleasing is literally draining your life force. Your nervous system is constantly on high alert, fight or flight, because you're always scanning your environment, trying to figure out what everyone else's needs are, what everyone else wants, how you should show up to make them comfortable. And when your nervous system is at that state, do you know what shuts down? Well, I'll tell you. Your creativity, your fuel, your intuition, your power. You cannot create from a place of fear. You cannot innovate when you're worried about being liked. You cannot lead when you're busy trying to fit in. And for women, especially women in leadership, women building businesses, founders, women trying to make an impact, this is your downfall. Because the world doesn't need another woman who's nice. The world needs women who are powerful within. Women who trust themselves. Women who says no when it doesn't serve them and yes when it lights them up. But you can't do that if you're stuck in the people-pleasing trap. So why do we do this? Why do we keep people-pleasing even when we know it's hurting us? Because it's not conscious, it's subconscious. It's wired into your nervous system from childhood. Think about that one. Spend some time with it. When you were young, your survival depended on you being accepted by your caregivers. If you were rejected, if you weren't loved, that was a threat to your survival. So your brain learned, be good, be agreeable, don't make waves, and you'll be safe. And that worked when you were 5, but you're not 5 anymore. At least I don't think you are. The problem is nobody taught you how to update that programming. Nobody told you that you could validate yourself, that you could be your own source of worth. So you were walking around as a grown woman, as a leader, an entrepreneur with the nervous system of a child who's terrified of rejection. And every time you people please, you're reinforcing that old story. That is scary. You're telling your brain, I'm not good enough on my own. I need their approval to be okay. But here's what I want you to understand. The story was never true, and it never will be. You were born worthy. You were born with a unique blueprint that no one else has. You were born with gifts and talents and a perspective that the world needs. But if you're too busy trying to fit into everybody else's box, you'll never show up as you really are. And that's just your loss. It's ours too. Because when you hold yourself back, you give everyone else permission to do the exactly same. When you dim your light, you tell the woman around you that they should dim theirs as well. So how do you break free from this horrible pattern? Because it is. How do you stop people-pleasing and start living from your own unique power and authenticity? It starts with awareness. Always awareness. You have to observe yourself. You have to catch yourself in the act. The next time you're about to say yes, pause just for a moment and ask yourself, am I saying yes because I genuinely want to? Or am I saying yes because I'm afraid of what will happen if I say no? That's it. That's the question that changes everything. Because once you start to see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You'll start to notice how often you abandon yourself, how often you put everyone else first, how often you're seeking validation instead of trusting yourself. And then you make a different choice. You say no. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're afraid, even when that voice in your head is screaming, but what will they think? And here's what happens. Nothing catastrophic, They might be disappointed. They might not understand. But you know what? They'll survive. And more importantly, so will you. So remember, other people's reactions or emotions are not your responsibility. Never will be. In fact, you'll do more than survive. You'll start to thrive. Because every time you honor yourself, every time you choose you over the need to please everyone around you, you're building self-worth. Real self-worth. The kind that doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. And that self-worth, that's your foundation. That's what allows you to create, to lead, to make the impact you're here to do. But it takes practice. It's not going to happen overnight. You've been conditioned this pattern for decades. It's going to take time to rewire, as simple as that. But I promise you, it's worth it. Because on the other side of people pleasing is freedom. Taste that word. Freedom to be yourself, freedom to trust your own voice, freedom to create a life that's actually yours, not a performance for everyone else. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying don't help people. I'm not saying be selfish or unkind. What I'm saying is be kind, not nice. Kindness comes from your full cup. It comes from a place of genuine care, not obligation. When you're kind, you're not stepping all over yourself. You're not abandoning your needs. You're simply showing up with an open heart because you want to, not because you have to. And here's the beautiful thing. When you stop people pleasing, you actually become more kind. Because you're no longer resentful. You're no longer exhausted. You're no longer giving from an empty well. You're giving from overflow. And that's sustainable. That's powerful. That's real. So the question isn't how do I stop being nice? The question is how do I start being true? True to yourself, true to your values, true to your unique blueprint. Because that's what the world needs from exactly you. Not your performance, not your perfection, not your people pleasing, just you. Raw, real, and powerful you. So here's my challenge for you today. Notice, just notice. Notice when you're about to say yes and you really want to say no. Notice when you're biting your tongue. Notice when you're speaking validation instead of trusting yourself. And then make one different choice. Just one. Say no to something that doesn't serve you. Speak up in the meeting. Put yourself first for once and see what happens. Because I promise you, on the other side of that fear is the life you've been seeking. The success you've been chasing. The freedom you've been craving. It's all there waiting for you, but you have to choose it yourself first. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to stop people pleasing and start living from your power, subscribe to this channel. I'm here to guide you, not with answers, but with questions that help you find your own. Because remember, you have all the answers within you. You just need to be brave enough to listen. So I'll see you next week. And any question, leave them in the comment. And I promise I will answer.